Studies show that well over 50% of men are hooked to pornography. According to another study, the average person spends about 4+ hours a day on his phone. Now you might think that this is just awesome to have so many sources of quick pleasure all around you. But the truth is that there's no such thing as free pleasure. All these things that you consume basically rob away happiness and motivation from the future you. That is exactly what I had been doing. And because of this, I destroyed my mental health. I was always tired, unmotivated, and even depressed. The worst part is I could not understand why I was feeling this way or how I can stop feeling this way. In 2018, I was at the lowest point of my life. But sometimes you just have to hit rock bottom to truly start climbing up again. So for the last 6 years, I read hundreds of self-help books, watched thousands of podcasts in psychology and neurology. I tried a bunch of different diets, supplements, and practiced various habits. During the course of this journey, I discovered certain key principles that completely flipped my life around. I went from someone who failed multiple subjects in high school to someone who is now working as a software engineer in top tech companies such as Dell Technologies, AMD, Synopsys. From someone who was a serial procrastinator to someone who now reads multiple books a month, lifts weight at the gym, trains martial arts, and the best part is I've been doing these things consistently for years now. In this video, I'm going to be sharing with you these key principles that allowed for this transformation to happen. But the truth is that these principles are not quick 5-minute hacks. These principles actually require you to make some lifestyle changes, but believe me, they're so worth it. So let's get right into it. So back then when I was living a life that was filled with quick pleasure, I never really had a vision for my life. I had no grand goals that I wanted to achieve, but there were always things that I just kind of wanted. Yeah, I kind of wanted good grades. Yeah, I kind of wanted to have a good career. Yeah, I kind of wanted to have a good physique. But these things were not set in stone. These were not goals that I was actively pursuing. And I had 1,000 different things that I just kind of wanted. But the truth is that I ended up achieving none of them. So the very first lesson that I learned was that you need to have a clear vision for your life. Clear goals. And I love this conversation from Alice in Wonderland. So Alice, this girl, asks the cat, which road should I take? And the cat responds by, well, where do you want to go? To which Alice says, I don't know, where do I want to go exactly? To which the cat responds, then it doesn't matter which road you take. And this conversation is a pretty deep conversation. It pretty much means that when you do not have like a clear goal, a clear vision for your life, then it sort of doesn't matter how exactly you're acting. What exactly do you do on a day-to-day basis? What actions do you perform? All behaviors just become equally viable options to you then, including the bad ones. Think about it this way, if you do not have a meaningful goal that is going to require me to work hard, that is going to require me to stay disciplined, that is going to require me to sleep on time, that is going to require me to be motivated, that is going to require me to pay attention. If you don't have a meaningful goal that requires the best version of you, then why should you even bother quitting pornography, fast food, ice creams? Why? There is no incentive for you to quit these things without a meaningful goal in your life. That's exactly what I did. I wrote up 2 meaningful goals. The very first one being that, you know what? I have never been a good student academically and I would like to get excellent grades. The second goal was that I would like to have a good physique. I would like to be stronger because I had always been this skinny kid who was rather weak and I always felt intimidated during my childhood. One key thing to remember is that when you set these goals for your life, make sure that they are few, maybe 1 or 2 at max, because when you have too many of these goals, then you get pulled in various different directions and you end up not achieving any one of them, and they just sort of become those kind of goals. Then I kind of want these things. So limit yourself to just 1 or 2 goals and commit yourself to them. Once I'd set these goals, I knew that I can no longer act like an idiot. I can't just waste away my weekends playing video games. But just setting these goals did not mean that I just automatically knew how to accomplish them. Like there was no magic pill that I popped that made me into a very productive person who was now achieving his goals. Like think of the scenario, for example. Imagine that there are 2 people and they both want to, let's say, go to this particular destination. Let's call this destination Wonderland. So the first person decides that, you know what, I'm just going to wing it. I'm just going to drive, cruise around. I'm going to take a random turns based on what I feel is right. And yeah, I don't have a plan or methodology. I'm just going to go drive around. And you know what? I will eventually reach the destination. And even though this destination is just thousands of kilometers apart, I'll eventually make it. So this was his plan of action. And then you have person 2. What this person decides is that, you know what? Even before I start my journey, I'm going to have a map. I'm going to have a map to my destination. On this map, I know where the shortcuts are. I know what are the routes I have to take. I know what are the turns that I have to avoid. I know where the potholes are. I know where the traffic is. And he has that map, that guiding map to take him to that destination. Which of these people do you think are going to reach the destination first? The obvious answer is person 2 is going to reach that destination first. But you know what the truth was? I was living like person 1. I was pretty much living my life without a map. Like, sure, I had a destination in mind, Wonderland was in mind, but I just didn't have a map. Like, how do I exactly reach Wonderland? I can't reach the destination by just waking up and doing random things. Like, even on those where I was like very motivated and driven, I used to wake up supercharged, visualizing my goals. But the actions that I was performing had no correlation with the goals. I was actually just picking up and reading 40 pages of a random book. Then I would go to the gym and run on the treadmill for an hour, and then I would just do random exercises and come back home. So even though I was exerting all this energy was not channelized towards my vision, and this led me to make like no progress at all. The second problem was that there were days where you just wake up without any motivation. Like, these days are going to happen. They might be like 30% of your life. You're just going to wake up and not feel like doing shit. And on those days, I just laid on the couch and scrolled through social media, or just did some quick instant pleasure giving activity, because let's be honest, these are like far easier to do, and when you're bored and unmotivated, you might as well just do that. So once I realized that I was facing these two major problems by just living my life impulsively, I decided I'm going to fix that. I am now going to start living my life based on a routine. This routine, this schedule that I have is going to be the map to my destination. But creating a map is not a simple deal. Like, you have to really research your vision, you research your goal. And I really asked myself, look man, I need to get good grades. What exactly does a map to this vision look like? I knew that I had to study 2 to 3 hours a day. I knew that I had to focus on question papers from the previous year, and I knew that I had to generate focus while I was actually studying. So I knew that my map needed to include these 3 things, because these 3 things are directly related to my vision. So the first thing I did on my routine was I set out like a 3-hour block early in the morning, that okay, during these 3 hours I'm just going to be studying. The next thing I did was arranged question papers from the last year. And lastly, I knew that, look man, in order for me to be focused, I need to go to bed way earlier. I can't be sleep deprived when I wake up, because that's going to mess things up. So on my routine, I marked 9 p.m. as my sleeping time. And I did this map research for my second goal, that I want to be athletic and have a good physique. How many times did I have to work out? What kind of nutrition did I need? Like, what are the habits that I can do day to day that would lead me towards that goal? That is the main question that you need to ask yourself when you're designing a map. And based on these answers, you need to be designing your routine. So with the second goal, I knew that I had to hit the gym at 3 p.m, the specific type of workout that I needed to do. And I noted that the timings of the meal on my routine as well, that hey, this is when I'm going to have the first meal. Hey, this is when I'm going to have the second meal. And I kid you not, just following this routine for 30 days in a row allowed me to make more progress than I'd made in years. And trust me, once you see yourself making progress, even though if it's a little bit of progress, like you put on a little bit of muscle or your grades improve by a few percentage, you're going to be hooked. You're going to be addicted to this routine. You're going to think of your routines differently. Your routine is no longer this prison cell, but it's rather a machine that is going to take you towards your goal. So this is how living my life by a routine fixed the very first problem, because a routine forces you to ask yourself the question, hey, what are the important activities for this goal? And now when you have this routine with specific activities listed down, you need to actually visualize what your next day looks like. Like, you need to literally visualize going through the routine. That I would visualize that, whoa, I woke up at 5 a.m. and then I opened my laptop and then I started studying and I did 3 to 4 hours of that. Then I went to the gym and then I came back, had a meal, and then I did the next activity. Actually visualizing the routine allows you to find out the constraints or the limitations or possible reasons of failures. Like, whoa, what if I didn't wake up motivated? What would I do? Then I would like have a backup plan. Look man, maybe I would just study for 1 hour and then I would do something productive. Hey, what if I felt sore when I woke up? Maybe I would not do the entire session. I would just do some recovery work. Or what if some uninvited guest showed up or some calamity happened? I would just work out indoors 20 minutes of just push-ups, pull-ups, something like that. The point is that visualizing your routine in your own head a day prior allows you to successfully implement all these activities on your routine, even when you're not really motivated, because you have all these backup scenarios for all the possible failures that can happen. That is how routine fixes the second problem of not feeling motivated all the time. So now that you've created a vision for your life and you have created a map to reach this vision of your life, you are going to realize that this journey is not very straightforward. There are still going to be a lot of bumps on the way. I'm now going to tell you about one of the biggest bumps that I faced in my journey. You know, we all know that one obese person that always wants wants to lose weight, and this person actually successfully loses a couple of pounds for a couple of months, but then eventually he's back to his original weight. And this is the cycle of his life. Like, years go by and he's still the same weight. The best example for this would be this program called The Biggest Losers, where really obese people would come, they would lose a bunch of weight, but once the program got over and they were checked up on, like, hey, 1 year later, 1 year after the program, where are they now? They had gained all that weight back on. And this is the most important bump. This is where your self-image comes into play. Just imagine this. Imagine that there's a rubber band placed between two of my fingers. Now this finger represents all the hard work that I'm doing. I'm dieting, I'm eating salads, I'm training 5 days, 6 days a week. I'm learning about diet and nutrition. I'm putting all this effort that is just stretching the band. Eventually the band just snaps back. It snaps back to its original position. And this original position is your self-image. You see, we all have a self-image. Like, self-image is basically the set of beliefs that you have about yourself. Now, they may or may not be true, but they are strong beliefs that you have about yourself. That perhaps that girls don't find me attractive, perhaps that I'm a terrible speaker, or perhaps I suck at math. And the truth is that these beliefs, they actually influence our actions. So even though these obese people from The Biggest Losers, they had lost a lot of weight and they were now like actually skinny or average, they still had the self-image of an obese person. They still thought that them eating, exercising, working out is something that is not natural to them. It's not part of their identities. And that is why they always felt like they were swimming upstream. Like they were swimming against the flow. And eventually once the program ended, they lost motivation. All the excitement went away. They ended up gaining all that weight again. And this self-image actually develops at a pretty young age. Like, for example, I always had the self-image of a loser. And I remember it was one of my family members that told me that, Jibreal, you are pretty absent-minded, you're pretty careless. And me as a kid interpreted that as, okay, maybe I am. Maybe I'm just a loser. And from that point onwards, anytime I would mess up, like get a poor grade or forget the keys or some shit, and I would use that as evidence, like, whoa, look at this. This evidence really confirms my self-belief. Like, it reaffirms it, it strengthens it, that perhaps, yes, I am a loser. Because you see, I forgot my keys. Oh, you see, I sucked at this exam. And what this does is it makes those negative self-beliefs even stronger. And as a consequence of that, you are much more likely to mess up in the future. So this becomes this vicious cycle. It's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy at this point. So even though I designed this perfect routine to reach my vision, I would still get these voices in my head telling me, bro, you're pretentious, bro. This is not you, bro. You are not the type of person that studies. You're not the type of person who actually gets good at math. You're not the type of person who can actually lift weights and grow a good physique. And I would feel like a complete imposter the entire time. But eventually my self-image completely transformed and I became a whole new man. And the first thing that I did to fix this was I just kept on following the routine. Day after day, day after day, day after day, the voices in my head, they kept getting softer because I was now collecting so much evidence that, hey, I'm exactly the type of man that I say I am. I'm exactly the type of man that studies a lot. I'm exactly the type of man that is disciplined, exactly the type of man that trains. And all these activities that you do, all the times I ticked on my to-do list and basically stacked these habits, they basically confirmed that self-image. I now had enough evidence to say otherwise. The second way that I improved my self-image was that I sort of became my own lawyer. You literally need to sit down and on a piece of paper, you need to note down all your accomplishments in the past. Maybe there was a time it was raining and you went to the gym. Whoa, that means I'm super committed. Maybe there was a time where you didn't have much time to study for a test, but you still managed to get a B. That means you're a goddamn genius. Maybe there was a time you said something funny and all your peers laughed. That means you're charming. I actually started noting down all the positive attributes that I had and I really hyped myself up and I started believing that, whoa, look at this. I'm someone who has all these amazing accolades and I used to view this list every single day. What this actually did was it actually shifted my self-image from this loser who was a victim of life, nothing could go good for him, to someone who now actually believed that he had the golden touch. Like anything I would touch now would turn to gold and I would perform excellently in anything that I pursued. And I cannot tell you enough, like once I understood this concept of self-image, every event in my life was interpreted in a different way. Anytime I would do something positive, I would associate it to me. And anytime I had failures, I would just get the lessons from the failures and I wouldn't attach those failures to my self-image. So just 30 days of having a vision, a routine to follow that vision, and dealing with this major bump of fixing my self-image transformed me into a whole new individual. After 30 days, all these habits, these behaviors, these concepts, they become natural to you. Like, you don't have to force yourself to do them. It just becomes automated. So it's the first 30 days where you actually have to escape the gravitational pull of these instant gratification giving habits. So if you would like to work with me in setting up a vision for your life and a routine that you would actually follow and helping you deal with all these bumps that come during the journey, then make sure that you click on the link in the description and book a call with me.